Hello, Merry Christmas. This is Photography Gamer and today it is the Christmas special. So what have we got in store for today? Well, I've got a quick channel update, a Q&A session formed of questions sent in by my subscribers and a few other little bits and pieces. Firstly, just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I hope you're having a nice time so far. You've got some nice plans with family, with friends, and just going to enjoy yourself. So before I do the channel update, I've got a couple of Christmas cracker jokes for you. Brace yourselves. Are you ready? What do you get when you cross an apple with a Christmas tree? A pineapple. Pine apple. No good? Right, let's do another one. What do you call a Christmas rom-com about bread? Loaf, actually. That's not actually that bad, considering that's a cracker joke. What do you think? Which one of those? Anyway, there's enough of that rubbish. Right, channel update. So, what's been going on with the channel? Well, recently we made it to 10,000 subscribers, so thank you to everyone who has continued to support the channel. Hopefully we can make our way to 50k in a matter of time. What am I currently playing? Oh, at the moment, I'm kind of winding it down for Christmas, as I said in a recent post. So I'm playing XCOM 2 Collection on PS4, which is going to take quite a while to review, but enjoying that. Also finding it a bit annoying at times, but I'll go into that when I review it. On Xbox, Far Cry 5, probably 3/4 through that, I would say. And I started Halo Infinite, but I can't say I'm that compelled with it. I'm probably going to wait for the co-op, because at the moment you can't play co-op on it, so probably will wait on that. Nothing on Steam at the moment. A bit of Party Hard 2 maybe over Christmas, but what to come next year from the channel? Well, I'm working on my second documentary, which is on Vietnam War games, but that's probably not going to come out till the summer because I've got a lot of work to do on that. Got a few more 10 thing videos, so that's a series I'm trying to sort of add to, but they take quite a while. But generally, reviews will be the meat and drink of the channel, the main content. Probably do some more previews next year because they're quite quick. And not every game I want to review because I don't have the time. So games that I'm not really going to be wanting to review, I'll probably do a quick preview of demos. And the Virtual Photographer's Guide, it hasn't died. It's still there. It's just I haven't done a lot of VP lately. So that will come back. But yeah, the channel's been going well. I think we're about 2.5 million views so far since I started. I think Dying Light's still the #1 video, about 140k views. So going well. Thanks for everyone's support, comments and all that. It really does help, it helps boost the channel's position in the rankings, and yeah, onwards and upwards. Right, Christmas joke part 2. Who hides in the bakery at Christmas? I thought it was going to be me. No, it's a mince spy. A mince spy. That's not bad. Next one. What do you call a deer who can't see? No idea. Well, what can you say? I think someone actually gets paid to write these. I don't know. Well, let's have a look at the next section. So we've done the channel update. Right, we're going to do some questions and answers. Thanks to everybody who took the time to send me a question. I would have done one of these sooner if I thought people were interested. Maybe I'll do it on an annual basis at Christmas. Make it a kind of a regular thing. Okay, so the first question is from Mike Whitman. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how games have evolved over time, what's been good and bad, highlights, lowlights from different generations. I go back to the NES but missed several generations over the years. Well, Mike, I started out, my first console was the NES, the Nintendo NES, the one that you flipped open. It was like a toaster, you put a massive cartridge in. Before that I was playing games in the arcades, so I've seen it kind of evolve from the origin of the arcades into where we are today. How it's evolved, I mean, there's good and bad points about the industry. I think, what happens is the initial wave of gaming and consoles was great because it was this fresh new thing that we could all sort of get into. But as time passes and things become popular in any industry, what happens is you get these kind of ghoulish characters in suits start sniffing around because they can sense the money to be made. They come in, they buy everything up, and then they take the product and they chop it into 5 pieces and they go, okay, we'll give you 3 for the same price you paid for 5, and the other 2 we'll give them as extra bonuses, or we'll charge you for them. And that it's the kind of the monetization of gaming. That's something I don't like, but I mean, good things about gaming is there's so much choice now. The indie scene is brilliant. I think the indie scene is the golden nugget of gaming because that's where you get a lot of the best experiences because they're not governed by large companies who are after share price profit margins. They're essentially made by small teams or individuals who are artists who want to express themselves, and that's why you get this kind of purity in the indie scene. But generally, I think gaming is as good as it's ever been. I don't think it's going to keep going on an upward curve. I think we are starting to see the beginning of a plateauing, and not a crash, but I think it's going to plateau and then start to drop down a bit because I think the AAA market isn't sustainable because of the costing of it to manufacture the games and the costing of the games, also the cost of consoles, the cost of all the accessories. In the culture we're living in and the climate we're living in, there's going to be a kind of free-to-play shift from the AAAs, and I think indie scene will start to sort of catch up with AAAs in terms of popularity because people will start to see the potential within it. Okay, next question is by Lamaldo78. How do you select which games to review? Are your reviews based on games you've recently played for the first time, or have you played them before and have recently revisited them? Either way, your vids are great. Smiley face. Thank you for that. Well, if you can predict what review's coming next, then you are Nostradamus, because even most of the time I don't know. Like, as you can tell, I have quite a varied, eclectic style. I really play whatever I feel like playing at the time. I can't predict what's coming next. I'll look at what's out, I'll look at what's in the sale, on Game Pass, in my backward collection on Steam, and I'll just pick one that I feel like playing and I'll play it, review it. There's no real pattern, rhyme or reason. I just go with what I'm feeling at the time. What do I want to play? You know, sometimes I'll play a game like, let's say, XCOM 2 right now, which is a turn-based game, which I like because my roots go back to sort of board games, turn-based board games. Also a bit of a chess player, so I like that kind of strategic, moving pieces around a sort of virtual board. So that's going to influence, probably next I'll be doing 3 or 4 other games in that genre. So there's no real pattern. In terms of whether I've played them before, the reason I'm able to do a lot of content now, like in the long term, it's probably not always going to be this way because I've been playing games for 30 years or more. I don't have a photographic memory, but I have a very detailed memory when it comes to any form of art, whether it's music, whether it's film, whether it's gaming, whatever. So if it's a game I've played in the past and completed, I'll replay 5 to 10 hours of it, get my head back into the structure of it, just enough so that I can write it, and then I can really churn that out quite quickly. That's why I can do a lot of the retro stuff pretty fast. Obviously, newer stuff, I've got to play through it. So I balance off games I haven't played and games I have played, and that's how I make the content. Next question is from Darkness Descends. Could you tell us about the games that got you into gaming? Well, it was the arcades really. I don't think it was one particular game. I do remember like enjoying WrestleMania in the arcades, I think, because I was a big WWF, or it's called WWE now, a big fan of that when I was a very young kid. So it wasn't necessarily like there was one game that I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to turn me into a gamer. It was just that feeling of going to the arcades, like where I used to live. Every 6 months, this fairground with the gypsy fairground used to come to town. You had all the rides, blah, blah, blah. And they had those big kind of arcades with all the machines in, fruit machines, things to gamble on, but also computer game ones. And I remember going in there with what pocket money I had, picking out the one I liked the look of and just playing it and really savouring it, because I didn't have a lot of money as a kid. So I had to be very careful what I spent my money on. So it was always like a sort of a very precious moment to play in the arcades, and that got me into it. And then when the console market really began, I got on board and pretty much been here ever since. Next question is from Alexander Duys, D-U-Y-S. I don't know how you pronounce that. I apologise if I said it incorrectly. Discuss lists of games you like and don't like that might surprise us. Well, I don't really keep lists of ones I like and dislike. Well, let's take Dark Souls, for example. Quite a divisive genre. You either love it or you hate it. I'm somewhere in the middle of that, because the first Dark Souls game I remember playing, I loved it. I really loved it because it was something fresh. So I started out really enjoying Dark Souls. Then the second game came and I was like, it kind of feels quite similar. Didn't like it as much. And then the third one, I felt even more so. Like for me as a gamer, something that you may have noticed from what I do, I like unique experiences. I don't necessarily love repetition. It's probably why I struggle with roguelikes. I don't like repeating the same thing over and over and over without any real kind of accumulative reward, because I see it as dead time. So like Dark Souls, the first time I played the first one, I loved it, but then the second and third, I just felt like I'd already played this game. And that's one thing I do struggle with, the genre. So yeah, I don't really have lists of games that I like and dislike. I like all sorts, you know. I don't love first person shooters as a kind of core game, but I'm probably more into third person adventure games. I do like sport, although right now it's kind of bleak, the situation in sports games. I like role playing games. I do enjoy survival, as long as there's something to it, a point. I say that, but I do like Ark, even though the point of Ark is just to sort of exist and survive. But yeah, probably didn't answer your question as well as I would have liked, but what can I do? There you go. Next question is from NXN Sun. Can you explain your process of making videos? Your videos are so well thought out, yet simple by design. It would be great to hear how you work. That wasn't sent in by me, even though I just said it like it was. I didn't pay them to say that. What was the question again? Process. What's the process? I pick a game, I start playing it. During the process of playing it, I'll record little snippets of footage. I'll also, on a piece of paper, write down little words, sentences, bullet points, circle them, and to the point when I complete the game, I've got an A4 page of paper. It's got lots of circles on it in complete chaos. Someone would think, what's wrong with this person? Why have they done this document? I take that document, I then put it into a sort of template review layout that I set up, put those words in the appropriate sections, and then I just sit there for about 15 minutes and I just drill it right from the top to the bottom, elaborate on all those things. One draft, spell check it, done. I don't reread it, I don't redraft it. I'm not a big believer in that. I want the reviews to feel like they're not off the cuff, but like I was talking to you in person. Not I've overthought it 500 times to make it sound clever. I just say it as I say it. Then I'll master the audio on my computer. I'll take the video footage I've recorded. I'll take the audio footage, the audio clips that I've just done. I'll put it in my review template, and I'll just, you know, chop up the audio so it's got a nice fluidity to it. And I'll put appropriate videos on the top. Do all the transitions, the fades, put a bit of music under it if it needs it, if there's copyright issues with the audio. Watch it, burn a copy, resize it, upload it, post it, the end. Next question, mind your language. That's the name of the person, that's not me telling you off. Fave game of all time and why? Well, my favourite game isn't necessarily the best game I've ever played, but my favourite game of all time, I would say, well, one of them is a game called Ico. It's from the people who brought us Shadow of the Colossus and The Last Guardian, which I wasn't too keen on. For me, it's by far the best game they've ever made. It's this beautiful story about this boy who gets banished. He gets sent to this sort of weird castle. He ends up meeting this girl and they go on an adventure together to sort of survive this sort of beautiful landscape from these ghoulish creatures and this evil witch. The art style is just sublime. It's like a watercolor painting. The musical score in that game is a true delight. It's got a very minimal interface, so it's very immersive, great sound effects, ambient effects, satisfying gameplay. You can also play it couch co-op, most people don't realise, but if you've got two controllers, one can control each. And it's also a game that's got such a delightful ending. You know, most games really do struggle with endings, but no, Ico is a true delight. I would have reviewed it, probably the first game on the channel, but I can't actually record footage of it at the moment because it's on PS Now, but I can't rely on streaming a game. Hopefully Sony will do Game Pass sort of variation next year and you'll be able to download it, then that will be first on my list. Okay, next question is by Herbert Rocha or Herbert Rocha. Again, I'm not so great on these pronunciations. Question is, in real life, you have interest in photography as well? Question mark. Well, for those who don't know or haven't watched the VP guide, I have been a professional photographer for about a decade or more. I got into it yeah, several years ago. When I was a kid, I was interested in it, but I never really followed that through. Then as I kind of changed career from like an office drone to being sort of an artist, I got into photography. So I've done multiple genres of photography in my time: portraits, fine art, ridiculous volumes. I've done it like while I've been traveling as well. I've met some really cool people, so like I'm fairly experienced in the medium. Do I like the medium? It's a funny question. Someone asked me, do I like photography? I like using a camera to capture an image or a feeling. I'm not someone who consumes a lot of photography necessarily, because photography is really just a method of capturing one of your feelings or thoughts on something that's you're interacting with in a sort of encapsulated, crystallized way. It's like freezing time. That's what I felt. So I enjoy the process of doing that. I don't go to galleries and look at other photographs. I don't look at photography books. I do look at virtual photography because obviously I do the guide, so I'm kind of here as a sort of mentor to some people and trying to break the process down, demystify all of the nonsense jargon that the games use, because, it's all people using words trying to sound clever, but I just trying to cut all that shit out and make it accessible, because I think that's something that needs to be done so that people can enjoy it more, So yes, I do have an interest in doing photography, not necessarily in consuming photography in real life. Next question, High Tech Hero asks, what video editing software do you use? Long time subscriber, love the channel, keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Well, I use, when I left my dull, tedious, pathetic office job, I got made redundant voluntarily, and I used some of that money to invest in pro grade cameras like DSLRs, Canon DSLRs for my work, and I bought Adobe Premiere, Adobe Photoshop, Sound Booth, After Effects, all of that stuff. So I use I think it's the CS5 version, so it's a little bit out of date now, but I use that. I found it very useful. When I first started video editing, I used Windows Movie Maker just to sort of practice. Then I think I bought one for £50 called Power Editor. I honestly can't remember the name of it, but it did the job. But then, when you need to go up a level, I found Adobe to be very good, most of the time fine. So yeah, a good sort of software that's, once you learn how to use it, there's so many functions that I never use. I just use what I need. Next question from Luke Gregory. Favorite console, past and present. Worst game you've had to play through for review. Best game related Christmas present ever received, and how awesome is Rogue Warrior on PS3? Well, several questions. You snuck them in there, Luke. Good effort. So, favorite console. It's hard to not say PlayStation 1 or 2 or Xbox, the first one, because they were kind of they changed the game. I did love the GameCube. Do you know what? I'll probably say, this is quite controversial, but I'd probably say the Sega Dreamcast, because it was a console that not many people really bought into, but it had some really charming games, like the Shenmue games, Jet Set Radio, Ready to Rumble Boxing, was it Crazy Taxi? It had all sorts of stuff at that time. I loved those games, and there were so many others. So yeah, I think the Dreamcast was the hidden gem, but I think the PlayStation and the Xbox probably tied for changing the kind of landscape. Worst game I've had to play through for review, my word. I don't know what the worst one is off the top of my head. I did really struggle with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, not because it was terrible, but because I played a shit ton of Assassin's Creed games that year, and Valhalla, as good as it is, it does go on. It's like, fucking hell, when is it gonna end? It's like I was on a drip. Someone was coming in to check I was still alive, sort of thing. That's what it felt like, but that was a struggle. Some of the Dark Souls, like 2 and 3, toward the latter parts, I was kind of having a bit of a problem with, but what can you do? Best game-related Christmas present? Probably when I got Shenmue 1, back when it came out for the Dreamcast. And the other thing, Rogue Warrior on PS3. You know what? Never played it. Shock horror. Next question by 2Bob Lee. What ideas made you want to start a YouTube channel? Do you have any tips for people like me who want to start one? Thanks. Well, I've always enjoyed gaming, and my friends are, I guess you would call them dirty casuals. They're not proper hardcore gamers, so they kind of dip in and out of it. So I've never really been able to sort of fully talk about gaming in the way that I kind of would have liked to, I guess. So that's one thing I always thought about. I'd love to do some sort of game review channel or game review website or something like that. And then, in recent years, my photography, filmmaking businesses, it's an up and down cycle, and you crave a bit of consistency. And I've always thought, could I do a YouTube channel? Yeah, I probably could. What could I do it on? So I thought, gaming is something I know intimately from the beginning of its sort of life cycle almost. So I thought, let's do a channel on gaming. Tips, the biggest that, like, when I started it, I looked up tips and all that shit, but the best advice I can say is if you want to start a channel, just start it today. Create the channel, create a social media page for it, create a logo, and just get going, because you can waste so much time worrying about how good it's going to look at the beginning. Like, well, my first few videos were probably shit. It's like anything in life. The more you do it, the more you refine your own process, and therefore you get better at what you're doing. Just start. If you don't know how to video edit, learn. If you don't know how to record audio, learn. If you don't know how to write reviews, practice. Practice is the key to anything. There's nothing that you can't improve on in life. You just have to keep doing it, and that's what I would say. If you want to do a YouTube channel, start it, pick a subject you care about, pick a subject that you want to talk about, because it's a slog, honestly. YouTube's not easy. You've got to put the time in, and if you're not committed for the long term and you want quick fixes, maybe don't start it. You've just got to be diligent and bloody minded and keep going, and don't listen to all the nonsense and the noise. You do what you want to do, start today, and you'll improve. Next question from MG Plays. If you could have your own game, what would it be about, and who would be the main character? PS, love your videos. Well, I would not be a character in the game. In case you haven't noticed, like, if you watch all of my reviews and any game where you can create a character, you will notice that pretty much every character I make looks different. This is not because I'm a schizophrenic. Do you know what? When I play a game, I look at the game and the environment and the world, and I think, who would live in this world? I make a character that I feel would sort of fit into that world, or some sort of like ridiculous version of that. I would never put my own self in a game. If I could make a game, well, I like survival games in terms of the fact that you can take stuff from the environment, reuse it, and build things, build bases, build, camps, and that kind of stuff. So I'd want a game where you can gather resources and build structures, really complex, beautiful structures, make your own weapons, make your own armor, really detailed. I'd make something that has a really in-depth character creation system that just allows you to pretty much do anything at all. In terms of the world, I think a sort of like a desolate Mad Max kind of desert type of environment with like a sort of a forgotten civilization within it, or something like that. Third person, I wouldn't, like Gears of War, the original trilogy, something like that, with like a sort of big kind of strong kind of types of combat warriors, cover based, maybe with like alien swarms, like Starship Troopers-esque aliens who live on this planet, who, as you build, they'll start to feel the kind of the noise of your development, and they'll come and raid your base like every couple of weeks in the game. Something like that, with all those details. Also, I think permadeath is important in games like that, and build a community. Like State of Decay does it well. So something with the State of Decay model of individual characters you can play as, but when they die, good night Vienna, it's all over. But also have a sort of a generational feeling to it. Like, let's say you reach a certain point in the game, you have a community, you've got everything set up to be sustainable, and then you have the option to time lapse. So maybe you could time lapse 10 years in the game. You come back and the environment's changed, like maybe you've terraformed parts of your base or around it into being like jungles, and the desert is still around that. Maybe some of the characters are a lot older, they look older, they've aged, their hair's grown. Maybe some of them have had kids, so you've got little kids in the game world that you've got to teach how to survive. So it's almost like an infinite survival adventure game where you could play solo against AIs, or you could have 2 or 3 people in that kind of elaborate world, fully destructible world, like Minecraft 7 Days to Die, but actually looks good. You could dig down under the earth and build bases and just make it a massive, expansive world with all sorts of hidden delights. Really good customization, challenging, rewarding, good building, all that kind of stuff. Next question, Miguel Silva. Have you ever changed your mind regarding your opinion or review of any game, good or bad? Well, scoring wise, like if I give a game 7 out of 10, that's a recommendation. 7 or above is a recommendation. Anything below 7, I'm not recommending it. That's not to say it's an absolute disaster if I give it a 6. You might still like it, but 7 is kind of like, if I give it a 7 or above, it's worth a look. Anything below 7, I would probably skip it. 8 is a good game, like a really strong game. Like 9, you're talking like super quality. 9.5 is like so close to perfect, and 10 out of 10 is like, I don't know about perfection, but everything in the game felt like it worked. And as a whole package, it's such a rewarding and enjoyable process. So have I changed my mind? Well, when I write my reviews, I put a score at the end, but sometimes I read through my review and I do change it at the end, but it's usually only by sort of half a point or 1 point. It's very rarely much. It's just I read what I said and I think, actually, that sounds like a 5 instead of a 6, or a 7 instead of an 8, or whatever. Next question by Aditya KR. How are you able to play all these games and write such a concise review for them? I mean, what's the process? Well, I think I covered that before. Some games I haven't played before, some I have. If I have, I dip into it for a number of hours. I've been writing, I've always been good at writing because I'm from a creative family. It's in I can just fluidly write stuff. I don't need to sit and think about it. You turn the tap on and I write, and then I turn the tap off. That's it. It's not like a drip. It's just write, done. Because like when I was younger, I did have some trouble with writing. Not necessarily writing per se, but like shyness talking to people. And over the course of my life, I've kind of developed a vocabulary and a sort of a spoken style where I can always say what I want, how I want to say it, in the pace I want to say it. Whereas when I was younger, I always felt like disappointment at the end of a conversation because I never felt like I really expressed my thoughts correctly. Because I was a little bit shy, and I think all the words were in my head, but they didn't have like an interconnection. Now, everything's interconnected, so I always feel I can say what I want to say in the way I want to say it, in a concise manner, especially for reviews. Next question from in the comments below. Hi, how long have you been gaming? Thanks, I'm 54, gaming since 77. Finally, a gamer older than me. No, I'm joking, sorry. Welcome to the Elder Club. I've been gaming since like mid-80s, so what's that, like probably like 85, 86. And I think I covered a lot of that before, yeah. So I've been in it since the beginning, so I've seen it all. And I have a kind of almost like a historic knowledge of like gaming, really, I guess. Okay, next question. All right, well, I need a quick drink. Hang on one sec. I'm having a whiskey, by the way, an Irish whiskey and a Schweppes ginger ale, my favourite Christmas drink. But it is 9:33 a.m, so I'm probably not going to be very productive today. I'm not a lush, I promise you. I just thought it would get me into the Christmas spirit, and it helps with the voice. You do get crackly voices when you're recording for this long. Anyway, next question is from Pete. Is this a full-time gig for you? Wondering how you find the time to play so many games, create so many reviews, videos. Well, I started a couple of years ago, and I was going to do it full-time for 1 year, and then after a year, review it, decide, is it really worth it? Am I actually seeing progression? Halfway through that year, the pandemic happened, so it's kind of forced me to do this full time since then to now, really, and it's kind of still sort of that's the case. I do still do photography, video editing, freelance and stuff like that, so this is not my only gig. In terms of how I do so many reviews and play so many games, like I said before in the video, a lot of the reviews I do are games that I've played historically, which means I can do the turnaround a lot quicker. If I'm doing 5 games, let's say, 3 of them will probably be games that I've already played before. The other 2 will be new ones, and I try not to pick too many big open world games because they take a hell of a long time to finish in terms of new ones. So like I balance it off between games I've already played, games that I'm playing at the moment, and just finding the nice sort of medium, and also look for games that are kind of small and short as well, because then you can just keep churning out little sort of short reviews. Final question is from Simone Martinello, or Simone Martinello. I apologize if I've got your name incorrect. Question is, what made you start making videos, and what was the biggest challenge you had to face? Cheers. Well, in terms of making videos for the channel, obviously, you know, if I'm doing a game review podcast channel, whatever, you've got to make videos. So that's what I got into this. But like in general, making videos, I started making videos probably about 20 years ago. They were more like montages at first of like photographs, because I used to do a lot of just taking pictures and making montages for family and stuff. Then when I was in my 20s, I did a lot of traveling because I was disillusioned with work, and I went traveling, bought a little camera, and you know, 6 months later, after I'd been all around the world, nearly died several times, long story, I had a taste for photography, but again, I wanted to put them into sort of a story-based format, so I made like videos with the photos, narration. Other trips, I took a lot of video footage and put them together into kind of like little short films about my adventure and what I was going through at the time and things like that. And I didn't really realize it, but that was kind of like my own film making, video making education. So when I did finally get to the point of making a YouTube channel, I'd been doing video making for a hell of a long time. I've done like, you know, professional video editing for companies, freelance. I've made short films. I've done like music videos. I've done documentaries. One tip I would say, if you want to get into making videos and you want to get into video editing, documentary video editing is probably, I would say, the best form of education you can have if you want to make videos. Because if you think about what a documentary is, it's like you have a shit ton of information and footage and material, but it's not in any order, is it? It's just info. What's this? How are you going to tell all that info in a story? And editing a documentary really gives you a kind of a free-form style when you're making a video. So if you want to get better at editing videos, edit a documentary about any subject. You don't even have to publish it, because what it does, it helps you understand narrative and visual narrative, you know, audio visual, and how things can lean from one to the next. Like one image can work well with another image, or like thematically, what's the relationship between two different things. And you can apply principles to that to like gaming editing, because I'm talking about things, I don't always use literal footage, but I use footage that's kind of has a fluidity to it. So I tell the story of the game while I'm telling the story of my experience of the game. What's the biggest challenge I've had to face making videos? It's just learning it, really, because it's quite technical, a lot of it. You just need to practice, you need to test things out. What does this button do? What does this do? How do I do this quicker? Blah, blah, blah. It's just keeping going. That's the problem. It's if you're not diligent and stubborn and bloody-minded and prepared to sacrifice and go forward with it, you'll probably give up after a year or two. I'm not that way inclined. You know, if I believe in something and I want to do it, then I'll do it. And if 1,000 people tell me to stop, I'll say, I don't care. You know, I make my own choices, I do what I enjoy, and I hope people enjoy it and get something from it, you know, learn something about the game, learn something from experience. So I try and do that for you. I try and break down the basics and other stuff. Anyway, I hope that answered your question in the most roundabout way possible. Okay, that is the Q&A. Thanks to everybody. I hope the answers were enlightening. I hope they helped, or I've given you a bit of an insight into the channel, me, the process, etc. So before we wrap up, one more joke. You're not getting away that easy. Here it is. What do you call an old snowman? Water. I promise you, I can't take these Christmas jokes anymore. Has anyone ever laughed at a Christmas joke? That's the question. Put that in the comments. If you've got any questions about anything in the video today, comment, because that helps. Right. That's enough shit Christmas jokes and me jabbering. I need to finish my whiskey, just lounge around for the rest of the day. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. I hope you have a really nice Christmas with your family, your friends, whoever. Stay safe and just, you know, have a nice time with the people you care about. This is Photography Gamer signing off for the Christmas period. Merry Christmas, everyone. I will speak to you soon.